Yes, right.
It does.
Yeah, it does. Just press that.
Okay. Please switch off or silence your phones or put them on airplane mode. Now I'm going to, before we start meditating, I'll briefly walk you through a relaxation technique. I'll tell you, relax this part of your body, relax your legs, relax your arms, like this. Because it'll be easier to meditate. Once that's over, I'll say, please start. And then we'll sit silently for about 10 minutes, after which time I'll tell you that it's completed. Please close your eyes very gently. Sit comfortably. And bring your attention to your toes. You can move your toes. Wiggle your toes and relax them. Relax your feet. You can even feel a current of healing energy from the earth entering into the soles of your feet, entering into the bottom of your feet, and relaxing your feet. And you can feel this energy moving up your legs very slowly and gently, and relaxing each muscle as it moves. Relaxing your lower legs, your ankles, and relaxing your knees. Let it move up your legs, relaxing your upper legs. Relax your hips and waist. Let your whole back become relaxed. From the base of your spine all the way up to your shoulders. Relax your abdomen, your stomach. And relax every muscle in your chest. Now relax your shoulders. Let them feel like they're just melting, becoming very soft. And let your upper arms relax, triceps, bicep muscles. Relax your elbows. All the muscles of your forearms. Relax your wrists and hands and fingers. Now relax your neck, your jaws, relax your mouth, tongue, and all the muscles of your face. Relax your eyes. Let them be closed very softly. Relax your ears and earlobes. And all the way to the top of your head. Now you can expand your awareness to include your entire body. And if there is any place in your body where there's tension or where there is discomfort, relax that place. You can even imagine the energy in your body is saturating that place. And let your whole body be completely relaxed. You can center your attention in your heart. In fact, you can even simply suppose that your attention is already there in the heart, where light from your source within yourself is also already present within your heart. This light from the source, or the source of light within the heart, is drawing your attention inward. And you can just relax into this feeling. And please start meditation. I think that we have a period of question and answers.
The house is open for questions. Any questions?
Anybody has any questions or you want some clarification or elaborations on the talk is delivered, he is welcome to clarify his doubts or elaborations.
Or even to, if you want to share something, even about any experience you might have just had also. Anything.
This meditation, laughing can be added into it. Laughing therapy. If that is also added for 2-3 laughs, the big laugh, it will definitely energize further also. We can have that kind of experience.
That's one form of
Relaxation.
energizing your body. Anybody who has got any experiences or want to share something?
Or ask a question.
All right.
I have one observation. I've been meditating, and what I've seen is if you have something which you can visualize, just now I did this kind of meditation for the first time. So looking inside your heart and visualizing, not really visualizing, but feeling light inside, that I found slightly tough rather than concentrating on your breath or imagining some flower and concentrating on that, because then you have something to hang on to, but you are not seeing the insides of your heart, so it becomes very difficult to concentrate. Maybe it's lack of experience.
Sure. I mean, I think we can look at this in two ways. Number one is that meditation is not concentration. That's number one thing. A sort of natural focus emerges on its own as a result of this process of meditation. But to try to focus your mind on something in that kind of way is a slightly artificial approach. And it won't lead us to the true state that, that you're trying to achieve through concentration. Meditation, if it's supposed to produce a state of peace in you, or if it's supposed to produce a state of relaxation in you, how can you do it when you're so busy concentrating? How can you do it when you're putting in so much effort to meditate? The two things are contradictory. So that's why we have to understand that this thoughtless state, or just a balanced state that comes when we meditate, is something which comes on its own and is something that cannot be forced by focusing your mind on one thought or by removing other thoughts from your mind. So this is a balance that has to happen from the inside out. And before that state of balance comes, we have to go through some periods of turbulence. As all of the things which we harbor inside, I mentioned earlier, the emotions from the past, and so many things, as they come out, they destabilize us in the same way that when you open a bottle of some carbonated beverage and all the carbon escapes, that's not stillness, that's disturbance. But then after that carbon escapes, there'll be stillness, and you won't have to try to hold that liquid in one place so that it's still. Effortless, it'll just be still. So the same thing has to happen with us when we meditate. At first we try to find our bearings. We can't because the thought is too subtle. But if we're going to become subtler, then our thought has to be subtle. So once we become subtler, then we won't have a difficulty handling a subtler thought. So this whole process is something, heart feeling is something which is subtler than thinking. If we're moving from a frame of being in which we're limited to thought, thinking, to something where we're able to sense in a subtler way through feeling, that means that we're going from a grosser state to a subtler state. And this whole progression is a state of moving from subtler and subtler and subtler states. So for that, we have to use subtle means. So that's why we take a subtle thought, And that itself will bring us further and further in that direction. Whereas if instead we take a form as an object of meditation, then that won't bring us into a subtler state ourselves. It won't be able to. Because the saying is that as what you meditate upon you become, or you take in those qualities of yourself. So if you meditate upon a form, well, you're already a form. You know? That's the logic.
Is learning once and beyond one's own enough, or do you need a tutor for long?
Sorry.
Do you, is learning once as we
Start
did
mine.
today,
On the mic, ma'am.
and is learning once as we did today and be on our own enough, or one needs a tutor for a long time? Is group meditation a better way of doing, or individual? Thank you.
Well, I would say that anything worthwhile, really worthwhile in life, some guidance is necessary. You know? I've been meditating for 19 years or something like that. And I still go and I see some teacher sometimes. You know? It's very helpful. We should never feel that we've mastered anything completely, no matter what we do in life. You know? And I think the greatest experts in their field realize that perfection is something that's always ahead of you. And this creates a lot of humility. I spoke with Dr. L. Subramanian, the Carnatic violinist, once. And he said something very similar to what this Osho once said also. He said that in this field there are no masters but only disciples. And I thought this is the statement of one of the best musicians. Only can think this way. So we have to have that humility in our approach. This thing that I can do everything myself has to go. And also there's a lot to learn from other people. So it's good to, if you can go, there are people in Delhi who practice heartfulness meditation and who teach heartfulness meditation always for free. There's no money making or business involved in it. Again, heart to heart. The minute you have self-interest, it's not about the heart anymore in this area. In the professional world, it's a different story. You have to make money. Okay? In this area, it can't be a business.
So how does it work really? I mean, somebody wants to learn mindfulness, meditation, so is there a program, is there a kind of number of days one has to go, or how does it
Yeah,
work?
you can, if you're interested, you can, maybe some people, if there are any trainers here today, they can identify themselves after the session, and anybody who wants to, you can speak to them about what the process is like.
One earlier question she had asked, is it advisable to go solo or is to go in group? That answer is still...
Yeah, I mean, nobody is doing anything solo in life, and even more so in India, I have to say. And so I think that even if we're on our own, I mean, you can meditate. I meditate every day by myself. Imagine how inconvenient it would be if you couldn't meditate if you were alone. Every time you want to meditate, you have to go find a group of people. So I meditate individually. But at the same time, sometimes I'll meditate in a group. There are also groups of people who meditate together. But my attitude should not be individualistic. I think meditation works best, when I somehow have the feeling that I'm including everybody in it. So you can do things by yourself, but individualistic attitude is something which we should avoid in all aspects of life.
Mr. Gupta,
yeah, I have a small question. Until now, I've been hearing about mindfulness. Most forms of meditation, Sahaja Yoga, whether you call it Vipassana, they're all mindfulness. The technique is by and large the same, except that that focuses on breathing. As he said, when you talk of Sahaja Yoga, they give you the mantra and then you do that. Imagine the form of body. How different are heartfulness and mindfulness according to
Okay.
you? I'm sure you practice both. So
Actually, I have.
yeah.
So I can put it, earlier I was starting to give one example before I changed my mind and decided to talk about something else. I started to give one example of this quantum thing, these particles, right? This is the difference between mindfulness and heartfulness, in my opinion. My point I was trying to make, see, in mindfulness, anybody who's done mindfulness meditation, Well, no, what is the purpose of mindfulness anyway? Purpose of mindfulness is that people have realized that they are the cause of their own problems, right? Though there may be external causes, we also contribute. We're the ones who can convert simple pain into something like suffering, right? Or we go off and create, we have, one idea, something I can do in my future, and I create a fantasy out of that. So with my mind, I'm exaggerating everything and enlarging and magnifying everything, right? And I suffer as a result of that. So the whole idea behind mindfulness is to some way detach yourself from these incessant, runaway train of the mind. So the approach that they take in mindfulness, let me make myself a, third-party observer of what's happening here. Let me observe everything that's going on and remain in the background, like this. Now, the problem with observation, as I was saying, that they experience, that physicists experience, right, is that when you're trying to observe something that's subtle, it's very difficult not to accidentally interfere in the experiment. Because you're less subtle than the object that you're trying to observe. You're less subtle than the quantum particle, right? Your observation, your equipment, your technology is so gross and so obtrusive that you ruin it, right? And you create a secondary effect. So instead of just stepping back and letting this whole mental system just balance itself and die down on its own, now you're infusing new energy into the system with your intention to observe it and your interaction with your own thoughts, which are so much subtler. When you observe your thought with purpose and intent, you're creating a secondary train of thought now. So the whole idea of detaching yourself from this process fails at that point. So mindfulness is like that, in my opinion. The difference between mindfulness and heartfulness is the difference between an antenna and a telescope. A telescope, you're trying to observe something. You're active, you're involved. But an antenna is just a receptor, like a dish. It's just a receptor, right? It's not involved. So this is the difference between thinking and feeling. Feeling is so passive. You're not trying to observe. You're not trying to do anything. Your heart is there. It is an antenna. Everything that's happening is just coming to the heart. And you're not involved in it. It's just coming, and that's what feeling is. It's a very passive thing, as opposed to thinking, which is involved. So that's why we meditate on the heart. Right? The heart is the organ of feeling. So we go meditate on the heart. We become very passive. We become uninvolved. And now we're not infusing so much energy into and creating secondary effects in our mind. And the purpose of mindfulness is therefore achieved through heartfulness. You understand?
Yeah. And that is another thing. I don't know, most of the people must have experienced it. When you do this, whether you do mindfulness or heartfulness way, you feel vibrations.
Sure.
That's a common process.
Another thing which you go to sleep, and that I really don't know whether what is the real cause of that. Why? Because when you are relaxing your mind, your body, and then meditating also, generally one goes to sleep.
Okay.
That's what my experience is.
Good. It's possible. This is one of the most common questions that is received, I would say, about meditation. Am I meditating or am I sleeping? I don't know. So how do you feel afterwards? You can understand that way. Compare the two states. Sleep sitting up in a chair within 2 minutes, if you can. And see how you feel when you come out of it, and see if you feel that same refreshment that you feel after you've been meditating. Or if you feel in some way groggy, like you need a coffee now. So this, whether it's fresh feeling or a very balanced feeling, is I think the number one indicator whether we're in a state of sleep or in a state of meditation. And what is the difference? It's our intention which decides whether we go into sleep or whether we go into meditation. And when you sit down with the intention to sleep, you'll sleep. You sit down with the intention to meditate, you'll meditate. The states may resemble each other because in meditation you're withdrawing your senses. You're withdrawing your mind from your senses. In sleep your mind is also withdrawn from your senses. So there is a similarity, but then the state, the inner state, is quite different in sleep and meditation, because in meditation there's a different level of awareness. We'll find this especially as we meditate more and more and more, that even in the state of sleep, there'll be a certain level of awareness. The more we meditate, we'll find that. And your consciousness will be different even in deep sleep, depending on what you've done before you go to sleep. You know, were you out with your friends? Were you watching a movie? Were you meditating? Okay, whatever you may have been doing, now you go to sleep at night, and you're in a state of deep sleep. But just because you're in a deep state of deep sleep doesn't mean your consciousness will always be the same. There will be differences in your consciousness depending upon the level of consciousness you've created in yourself before you went to sleep. So I think that we'll find that consciousness itself is a very subtle thing with lots of little differences and lots of nuances. And consciousness doesn't only mean to be conscious or to be aware. It's more like when you put petrol in your car, okay? The petrol has to be converted into some kind of electrical energy, you know, before your car can run from that petrol. Similarly, consciousness. Consciousness is like the petrol. It has to be converted into some kind of awareness. You know, so I think we can play with all of these things, and we go deeply into these when we meditate. We start to experience these subtleties.
Small question. What the desired personal response one is seeking when we meditate? Is it connected to your own self or the spirit?
Well, the difference between the two depends on our level of understanding, our level of awareness. There may be a time when we're unable to see the difference between those two things. You know, of course, some people philosophically, you know, if you look at, you know, Advaita or something, you know, look at Vedanta, they'll tell you from the very start that there's no difference. But that doesn't mean they've experienced it. So what we're seeking is going to change according to our level of consciousness. And so this is what our growth is going to be. We'll find that changes day by day even. So it's enough that we have some urge to meditate. Whatever your reason may be is all right. But understand that that'll continuously evolve with time.
I think that would be the last question. Sir, please.